How can a headset be used to treat ADHD? This video is a couple minutes, so if you just want to know how this works, here's a TLDR. The Neurode headset improves focus by delivering a personalized dose of non-invasive brain stimulation that balances the underactivity in the prefrontal cortex that's related to issues of executive function. We combine this with brain imaging to track how symptoms improve over time. If you want to dive deeper to understand the science behind it, keep watching. ADHD is a dysregulation in areas of the prefrontal cortex, or PFC for short, which is a brain region crucial for executive functions like attention and impulse control. It's broken down into 5 main areas. The dorsomedial prefrontal cortex is associated with emotional regulation and determining our sense of self. It becomes more active when we're forming social judgments about others. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is associated with executive function, including working memory, focus, and attentional control. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex is involved in processing of risk and ambiguity. Underactivity of this area can lead to increased risk-taking behavior and the overvaluing of small and near-term rewards over larger, long-term rewards. The ventrolateral prefrontal cortex is involved in response inhibition, memory, and language. The orbitofrontal prefrontal cortex is associated with goal-directed behaviors, reinforcement learning, and how we assign value to things. You can already see that the prefrontal cortex and its activity is closely related to the symptoms of ADHD that impact daily life. For people with ADHD, certain areas of our PFC are often less active. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, but it takes a lot of your brain's energy to stay on task, to remember lots of things at once, or to choose the healthy option over the fun one. So when we're focusing really well, we're actually using a lot of our brain's neural resources, and when we're distracted, these areas are less active. To treat ADHD, we need to modulate brain activity, and there are 2 main ways to do this. The first is to influence it chemically with medication. This is how Adderall and Ritalin work. They're stimulants that increase your brain activity by increasing neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine. But because it's just medication, it's very difficult to target those neurotransmitters in just one brain area, which leads to a host of side effects that people with ADHD know all too well. The other way to increase brain activity is directly with electrical signals. Brain firing is an electrochemical process, after all. Neurode uses electrical signals to directly balance the activity in your prefrontal cortex so we can improve focus, memory, and impulsive behavior without many of the unwanted side effects of medication. Let's zoom into how that helps your neurons. Neurons need to reach a certain level of activity in order to send an electrochemical signal to the next neuron and fire synchronously. This level of energy that a neuron needs, it's called an action potential. In ADHD, neurons struggle to reach that energy threshold, which results in less neural resources being activated when you need to pay attention, retain a memory, or regulate an emotion, causing the symptoms of ADHD that we all know. Neurode applies electrical signals to increase the resting membrane potential, meaning that less energy is required for neurons to activate and fire together. By applying stimulation across the prefrontal cortex, brain activity can be raised up to its optimal levels, reducing the symptoms of ADHD. And unlike medication, which influences neurotransmitter levels, Neurode's approach is more targeted, minimizing side effects. Even more than that, regular use of Neurode induces neuroplastic changes, strengthening neural connections over time. This is due to a core neuroscience principle called Hebbian law, which states that cells that fire together wire together, meaning that when you continue to activate your neurons over time, they're able to do so more easily in the future. Kind of how your muscles get stronger over time with exercise. You can't improve what you can't measure. We've all heard that saying, but here's how it applies to the Neurode treatment. Each brain is unique, and so it's important that we personalize the treatment and track your improvements. In order for this treatment to be optimally effective, we personalize the dose of stimulation to your unique brain, and then we measure your brain to track how your prefrontal cortex activity is balancing over time. We do this using a brain imaging technique called functional near-infrared spectroscopy. It uses near-infrared light to measure the changes in blood oxygenation in your PFC, which tell us about your brain activity levels in this area. This data lets us track how your ADHD symptoms are progressing over time, so you can objectively understand how the treatment is helping. Our headset helps you manage ADHD symptoms like focus, working memory, and impulse control in 20 minutes a day from home, drug-free. It does this by using a personalized dose of non-invasive brain stimulation to balance the underactivity in your PFC that's associated with these symptoms in order to increase your executive functions. It lets you measure and track your symptom improvements over time so you can be sure that it's helping.